Hey everyone, Rob here, and I have an update on the post-eruption news. What's going to be happening with the town of Grindavik, as well as some deformation data that's been processed by Marco DeMarco, who's I think is Volcano Chaser. He's posted some stuff, and a little bit of other news. So we're going to start off with the deformation information that has been compiled and processed by Marco DeMarco. And this infragram is a bit glitchy, he says, because of the presence of snow on the ground in Iceland. And sometimes we get that. And it's possible, though, to recognize roughly the position of the dike and the horizontal displacement, which is between 1.2 and 1.5 meters in total. The intrusion around northeast, southwest, or north 30 degrees east stretched for roughly 5 kilometers, with the northernmost tip located 1.9 kilometers east of Snillingarfell and the southernmost tip located under the town of Grindavik. Now, the intrusion lies about 550 meters further east than the one formed on December 18th. The displacement is somehow comparable to what it was observed on the 18th and a bit smaller than November 10th, which is normal given the area was already fractured by the events of the previous months. We have the inflation measurements that are coming out of the University of Iceland using all of their information, and this came January 21st, and the inflation measured by the GPS stations around the Svartsengi area is still ongoing. That's a very important point. As you can see here on this graph here, we have November, then we have rising up until the eruption, and then it dropped, and then rising up until the eruption, and it dropped, and then it's continuing to rise up. After a few days where the data was affected by, all the eruption and intrusion and everything like that happened, it now looks like the inflation is increasing at a similar rate than what was observed before the last eruption. Given the data and the similarities with the pattern observed, as we can see exactly that pattern here that we're seeing over the previous months, a new event, aka eruption, within the coming weeks to days, whether it's an eruption or some new magma intrusion, is therefore very, very likely. Now, again, the previous picture was from Marco DeMarco, and this picture here is courtesy of University of Iceland Institute of Earth Sciences. We have another picture here showing the placement of the eruption that happened most recently in connection to the town of Grindavik. We can see here the barrier that they have built, which surprisingly, or maybe not to the people that built it, but it worked extremely well in holding off the eruption along that line. Now, the problem that, of course, they were faced with was the eruption occurred across the barrier line. But had it not, it looked like it was doing a pretty job containing the lava flow from going into the town of Grindavik. Now, because it went across both, we do have the spillage on the side here. And unfortunately, as we may all know, we had another sort of eruption event inside the town of Grindavik, which destroyed a bunch of houses down here. So a fissure popped up, and it was short-lived. The whole eruption was just like 24 hours. It was very quick. It might not have even been that, but we can see here exactly where it all occurred, which is something that is always kind of nice to look back and see where we're at. But you can see again the town of Grindavik dangerously close to the last eruption, and with the rate of the increase of sort of all of this building up again, the city and the country, they're all thinking, what is going to be happening now to the town of Grindavik, that people have been evacuated, and it's time and time again that they're being evacuated from both the Blue Lagoon as well as Grindavik. Now, the Icelandic council and government, they've all gotten together, and as I said, the Grindavik town has been basically empty since it was evacuated mid-November. Since then, has seen 2 eruptions, and a fissure opened up on the town's borders where 3 houses were destroyed. You can see a picture here from RÚV, which is the media agency here. 3 houses were destroyed by lava. And of course, the houses that weren't destroyed, you're not feeling too comfortable with this right at the end of your street. Now, during this time, the government had been working really hard to find a solution to all these residents' problems. And today, January 22nd, it presented its sort of measures and decisions. The biggest project, of course, is to secure housing for the residents of Grindavik. That's 3,000 people, give or take. Now, the state of Iceland, or sort of the government of Iceland, plans to give residents the option to redeem the funds tied up in their housing, but also guarantee them housing. In view of the serious situation that exists in Grindavik and the uncertainty that prevails about living in the town in the future, or the near future for sure, the government has decided to offer individuals can use their funds that are currently tied up in housing until the financing of new homes if they want. And that's all coming from the city, the government council website. They also plan to start developing housing in certain areas, as well as creating conditions that guarantee residents priority for housing. Now, certain companies are going to buy 50 apartments in addition to the 80 that were bought in December and the 70 that are being bought these days. The housing association Björk is also working to buy 60 apartments, with everyone. And one thing I just want to clarify, because not everyone is sort of in this sort of lingo of apartments. When we're talking about apartments, for those North American, they're actually condos. So there's people who are buying, it says apartments in Iceland, but what they really mean is a condo. So you have a mortgage on this space, but it is in a sort of an apartment building, if you will, a condo building. So the government of Iceland also plans to take over the payment of interest and prices on the housing loans of residents who choose not to sell their homes. They're going to continue to work with civil defense, municipal authorities, and emergency responders to enable residents to access their homes in order to retrieve contents, valuables, pets, and whatever else they have in there. Now, the government is also preparing to cooperate with companies that specialize in transportation that can provide assistance to residents who don't have the ability to take care of all of this themselves to sort of get valuables. I mean, it's a huge financial cost that they've already had to endure. Efforts are also being made to provide residents with assistance in gaining access to secure storage facilities where all of these contents of their house and their whole lives can be stored for as long as necessary. The government of Iceland also plans to guarantee those who cannot find work in Grindavik support for the payment of wages, as well as contribution to the pension fund, and all of this is going to be in effect until the end of June. So there's a couple months there. Special housing support for residents will be updated and extended until the end of June. Support will now target the number of household members and will be up to 90% of the cost of renting instead of the previous 75%, in order to better cover all the costs incurred as a result of renting a home. All of this stated on the Government Council's website, and that the aim is for the necessary bills to be ready no later than early February. So this is their plan to get basically Grindavik. What it sounds like is they're going to kind of axe Grindavik and move the town. Not sure exactly how the residents of Grindavik feel about this. I mean, this is all coming out today. But at the end of the day, looking at pictures like we're seeing here, of course, going back to, we're seeing lava and eruptions just outside of the city door. I mean, the last thing that you want is to be in a town where every 4 weeks or even every once a year you're evacuated from your house because you have an eruption that's started, or earthquakes, or all these different types of things that the people of Grindavik have been dealing with. So I think it's a good move by the government. I think this town, as sad it is, I think this is a good outcome, that the government of Iceland will basically be buying them out and relocating the town to another area. And there's a lot nearby. I mean, of course, there's Njarðvík, there's Keflavik, there's Vogur. I mean, there's a huge amount in the Reykjanes Peninsula, a lot of land, Garður, Sandgerði. So there's a lot of places in the area of the Reykjanes Peninsula, or even down towards Selfoss if they want to go in that way. There's a lot of places that people can be relocated to. Now, I know there's a lot of heritage in Grindavik, and a lot of people have been there for generations, but again, with the situation that's been ongoing, and of course, the Blue Lagoon is there too, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people in Grindavik that work at the Blue Lagoon or the power plant, but really, people's safety is number one, and the last thing we want is everyone to be let back home and we don't get the warning that we would like. You know, this the fissure that opened up inside of Grindavik, this one right here, there was no warning as that opened up, so we don't want that to happen when people are in their homes. So that's the news for today. A lot going on in terms of the uplift, the magma coming in, and yeah, basically all the scientists saying prepare yourselves for the next one, because based on this rate, and we can see it didn't even drop as far as it did on the first eruption, but based on this rate, we're looking at a couple days, maximum couple weeks before we see the next event, whether that's an eruption or some sort of other geological event. So thanks so much for watching all the news, and let me know in the comments if I missed anything important. But if anything comes up, I'll be sure to do another video. So stay tuned and subscribe and do all of that stuff. And until then, thanks so much.